So now we're going to implement our matching function for viewing this particular user. So it's fairly easy. If you remember back, we did from matches.models, import match, and now here we'll say match and created, match created equals to match.objects.get or create match, and user A is going to be equal to either one, it doesn't actually matter, request.user, so me as the requested user, and then user B is equal to the other user, which would be just user, not profile, but just user. Now this is another part, is we have to now check whether or not this user is authenticated. So there's a few things on how we could actually go about doing this. So we could add in a login required decorator, which would basically force them to log in. It would change them to the login area. We could also do if request.user.is authenticated. We could run this, and if they weren't authenticated, we could say else raise HTTP 404. So I'll import both, and I'll let you decide which one you'd rather have, and you'll see why you do one over the other. From Django.http, import HTTP 404, and then the login required decorator, and that's from Django.contrib.auth.decorators, import login required, and we can just, first off, we'll take a look at this as it is here. So let's go back into our project, and I'm going to copy it and open up a incognito window with Command-Shift-N or Control-Shift-N if you're on Windows, and hit Enter. So now if I go to this profile, it says page not found. All right, so let's change this to being logged in required. And now if I refresh it, it now redirects me to log in, and then it goes next to that profile. So it's kind of your choice as to which one you're going to want to use here. I'm going to use the login required decorator. I think that's a better decorator for this case. Now, of course, if you were trying to do other things like hide this from some users, then the login required might be something you do, but you also might use the authenticated method as well as some other stuff. All right, so now that we've got this, we can actually go ahead and take a look at this user. Close out that one, and now we refresh in here, and that should have just ran the match for us. And if we look into our terminal, we see that we actually get a match in here, which is pretty cool, right? So it actually printed it out. And that has everything to do with, looking back at our matches, our utility function. It might be in here. Nope, it's not in here. Let's look in our models. There's somewhere in here that we actually had it printed. Nope, not in here. Let's look back in the utils. And, oh, there it is. So right here. So this is actually printing out those two decimal numbers. So it's actually the match percentage is not going to be anything because look at how small those numbers are. And we're going to be multiplying them by 0 basically. So let's go ahead and go back into our view, and we'll look at our profile view. So in here, let's actually say p class equals to lead, and we'll say match it, and we'll just do match dot. Let's look back at the model, and we'll give it match decimal. So the view is match dot match decimal. Close off that. All right, so let's look back. There's one more thing we need to do, and go in our views, and we need to add the match into the context dictionary. Otherwise, we won't be able to call it like I almost did. So match. Let's go back into the profile, and we see the match percentage is essentially 0, right? So it's going to round down to 0. So we would actually probably want to format that at some point, which is not something we'll do yet. But the important part here is we can now see this match percentage based off of this user. So we could also do this based off of other users as well. So if we look at the list of users that we have, the next one would be Jason Bourne. So Jason Bourne. And we have a 70% match with Jason Bourne. That's pretty cool. And then obviously yourself. So if you went to your own user, you're going to get a 100% match, right? That makes sense. And then Khaleesi, this is the one that we've worked with a lot. We have almost a 0% match. And then lastly, Lucy, which is yet another one. We have a almost 27% match. So cool. So now the matchmaking algorithm is working, and we can actually see it in some of these users. So in the next one, we'll actually format it into a percentage by making it a instance property. All right, so if you have any questions on what we did here, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.